Chapter 9. Who am I? Pawn becomes queen. If there was ever one thing that gave Wanda an advantage over everyone else, was her ability to take all of the fundamental wisdom she had collected over the years and use it to her advantage. To her, knowledge was power, and that power gave her the leverage to think about things not many others could. She pushed the limits of what was known, compared it to what was not, and came up with each theory she could through calculated logic. Her mind yearned for so much knowledge it drove her passions into overdrive. Once in a great while, a challenge would present itself to test her knowledge. She loved those challenges, especially the ones she knew no one else could figure out. Just like the one she had now. Wanda had taken as much survey and scanning equipment from the end run that could fit into the little shuttlecraft that she borrowed. Although Kaya had begged and pleaded with her to stay, she sensed deep down inside that this is where she needed to be. Out in the middle of nowhere, trying to figure out what happened, she said out loud. This was the exact location where Devon disappeared. Every piece of data she collected brought her to the same conclusion, that this was no ordinary phenomenon that happened. One would be lucky to come into a natural wormhole once. Twice? Well, that was even beyond dumb luck. A term Wanda never believed in until she spent some quality time with Ree. Wanda checked over both her shoulders, almost half expecting the ditzy redhead to come by and ruin her experiments. After a few seconds of coming to terms that she was indeed alone, she resumed monitoring her scanners. Every scan that came back to her read the same as the last. There had been a temporary wormhole here. The trail of dark matter residue even pointed out the direction to where it ended up, which made Wanda's mind twirl around in stupefied wonder. The path led far beyond the reaches of what was considered to be the known universe. No, not the known galaxy, she told herself, the known universe. The energy residue gave her the feeling that someone had deliberately taken Devon away. The theory of anyone collecting that much dark matter and opening up that large of a wormhole was nearly impossible to accomplish. To open it and send it toward a specific location, she mumbled, a place where even I can't scan. If I could replicate the process, I could reach the other side and find him. But no one now has that kind of power. What to do? She theorized that it would take the power of at least 20 stars to even come close to matching the power it took to open up a wormhole of comparable size. But Wanda didn't have time to come up with that kind of energy, not within the next 4 days at least. She sat back, closed her eyes, and let her mind sink deep into thought. Her shoulders rubbed aggressively into the chair, satisfying her nervous itch so she could think with a clear conscience. She drifted back, letting her ideas come to her. Regardless of how crazy or impossible they may have seemed, she had to think of something. If I could create a black hole and siphon the energy it collected, I could concentrate the byproduct into the area and rip the wormhole back open. Wanda's nose twitched. And what would you use to siphon it with, you goof? It would take a converter the size of a gas giant to harness even a fraction of the energy. Think bigger. Wanda pushed herself even farther into thought. What if I created a black hole, inverted it to repel the bindings of space, and shot it toward the spot to open the hole? She sighed. I'd need more energy to invert the black hole than it would take to create the wormhole. Her mind sunk deeper into itself. Think bigger. How about praying really hard? Ever think of that? Wanda smirked. If that was the answer to everything, what would be the fun in trying to manipulate such an event yourself? Do you think that such a manipulation would be wise for mortals to use? Asked a voice. Probably not. They might just end up trying to rip each other new holes, Wanda muttered to herself with a giggle. You know you have the power to do what you seek, the voice told her. What? Just snap my fingers and it'll happen? Something like that. You have to believe in yourself to make it so, said the voice. What if I can't believe? Then it can't happen, Wanda stated. Nothing here works like that. It would take a power of supreme design and intelligence to make it. Wanda opened her eyes. Who am I talking to? Work, she finished. Wanda glanced around, noting that she was not in Kansas anymore. She was up to her armpits in wild grass, surrounded by fields, hills, and blue sky. Her mouth fell open. Her eyes were wide awake to the sudden change of scenery. The dreamy landscape did nothing to settle her insides, leaving her with the feeling of being far removed from where she was. Hello, Wanda, called a voice from beside her. Wanda turned her head. Her skin shivered with fright, followed by the rest of her body. Ah! She screamed. Who are you? Where am I? What's going on? The beautiful blonde woman beamed with a look of warmth and kindness, but there was a hint of sadness that encompassed her eyes as well. I wish there was time to explain, the woman replied, but you have to trust me. You have to remember who you are. Wanda's eyes crossed. What are you talking about? What do you mean, who I am? You have been wandering for so long, said the woman, as she bent down to look at Wanda, their faces at an even level. Everyone who stood taller than Wanda ended up doing that when talking to her, for as long as she could remember. Even though there had been a time in her life when the gesture annoyed her so, she had gotten used to the fact that she would not get any taller, and began to put up with it. I think you're mistaken about me. I don't think you have. Have you ever wondered why your shoulders itch? Wanda pulled back, her surprise even catching her off guard. What do itchy shoulders have to do with anything? The woman raised her arms into the air. With the sound of a whoosh, a pair of bright white wings sprung out from behind her back. Wanda's body grew light, feeling as if she may pass out from the mind-boggling view. Tears came to her eyes, her emotions overlapping any sense of reason. You need to remember. You need to claim the faith you lost, Amora the Wise. Wanda shook her head as a light formed between the woman's outstretched hands. Wanda tried to cower back, but she was frozen in place by the serene sight. She clutched her hands to her aching temples. They pulsed with the hurt of keeping herself steady and sane. She bent over, the intensity pushing her over the edge. Closing her eyes, images and thoughts from someone else came to her mind. There was light, wings, many wings, and worlds of near infinite numbers lining the levels of existence. There was a city far above, watching over all, governing the natural bounds of what is known and what is believed. Her head began to overflow with knowledge, wisdom, and thoughts that had only occurred to her in dreams. Dreams that she thought had no validity or substance. No, please, I don't want to remember, cried Wanda. Falling to her knees, her body cringed as she thrust her head up to look at the blue sky above. Her tear-struck eyes began to bulge from the overabundance of information hitting her. She let out a scream that shook the grounds around their feet. There was a burst of air from behind her as she tried desperately not to remember who she was. God, please, don't let this happen. The white wings along her backside fluttered about, shaking from the emotional intensity she was going through. The rush of feelings became so extreme, she thought that her smaller frame would tear apart after reaching its insufferable climax. But then it lifted. All was starting to become calm once again. Wanda looked down, her feelings of fear and loathing fading from her soul. All of her emotions drained away, leaving her with a peace of mind that she had thought was missing from her inner being long ago. She slumped forward, bracing herself on the ground. With softened eyes, her thoughts became cool and collective. "So, you are the one who has been chosen for the merger?" asked Wanda, still staring down at the ground. "Yes," replied the woman. "I am Brianna of Solstice, and I need your help." Wanda smiled. The memories that had been out of her reach were now alive and vivid within her mind. She had wandered so long, most of the pain and agony she carried with her had all seemed forgotten, as if they were a part of someone else's life. But they weren't. They were hers, as much as she did not want them to be. "You have chosen well in the selection of your hero," said Wanda, her eyes drifting up to Brianna. "He reminds me of the one I chose long ago. So very long ago." Brianna stared at her, worry and sorrow filling her vision from what she had discovered from the last merger. "I know it must pain you to remember," said Brianna, "for that is probably why you walked away from the light, and I am so sorry for what you had to go through. But I need you. He needs you. I've done all that I can from here." Wanda sighed. The memories of the past were refreshing themselves within her, as if they had only happened yesterday. Faces and images of places floated by, leaving her to contemplate where all that time had gone to. It was so easy for her to get lost among the stars, to dance around in freedom, not withholding a single care for anyone who dared to try and pin her down. She was lost, and now she was found. To finish what was no doubt unsettled from her haunted past. "Yes, there is much to overcome this time," said Wanda. "The forces of good are smaller, weaker than they have ever been. I don't know if the power of the Raelians can be defeated this time. Devon needs to find his love soon." Brianna nodded, knowing that would be taken care of when he was brought back to face the enemy. "I know, everything is ready," she replied. "I have—" "It can't be you," interrupted Wanda, staring up at her. "The one he chooses. You can't be the one he falls in love with." Brianna cringed, her lips pulling into themselves. She turned her head and nodded. "Yes, I know," she replied. "I've tried not to." Wanda reached for her hand. She gripped it in a way that made Brianna realize the severity of what she was saying. She turned to her, noticing the fear and desperation that Wanda was emanating. "It can't be you," she said again. Her eyes reflected with a dread that pierced Brianna to the core. She choked. Her eyes welled, pushing the tears down the outsides of her cheeks. Brianna dropped to her knees, trembling with the remorseful realization. Wanda embraced the troubled child. She knew. Now at least she knew all too well what she was going through. Wanda rubbed and patted Brianna's head as comforting as she could. I know, said Wanda. "You must understand. It is for the best." Brianna nodded, knowing what she was saying was true. "Yes," she sniffed, pulling back from Wanda's embrace. "I guess a small part of me thought that I could change the outcome this time, but I see that would not be the case. I would just be making the same mistake you did." No, Wanda replied. "It wasn't a mistake. I don't regret anything I did. I made a choice, and I have lived with it ever since. Walking away from the light was the hardest thing I ever did, but my love led me to a life I had never known before, and I knew there would be no turning back. Self-exile was my only option. I just don't want it to be yours." Wanda gave a soft chuckle. "I guess there's a lesson to be learned there somewhere." Brianna smiled, though it was small and weak. She knew deep down Wanda was right. "Thank you," said Brianna, grasping Wanda's hand. "I was hoping you of all people would understand what I was going through." "I do," replied Wanda. "All too well. Love is a tricky thing sometimes. Sometimes it's hard not to heed its call. But then, who doesn't desire it?" Brianna looked at the ground, thinking hard about her words. "Just don't let it keep you from moving on to the better things waiting for you. There is more going on here than you know." Brianna turned her curious eyes to her. "Like what?" Wanda patted her hand gently. "All in good time," she reassured. "But first things first, we need Devon back, wherever he's gone to." The intrigue of the moment lifted as Brianna gained a little more composure at the mention of the duty ahead. "He's getting help," reaffirmed Brianna. "All I have done was to give him a chance to balance the odds. I believe that he will. So much depends on it." "Well, don't worry about how he'll get back. Let me handle that. Just keep Navarra occupied until I can assemble the rest of the forces together." "Darkness," Brianna stated. "His name is Darkness. And yes, I will do as you ask." Wanda hesitated for a second before continuing. "All right then," she beamed back, her confidence growing with every second. Wanda turned her sights to the two objects sitting upon her shoulders. "You know you two have been a real pain to me for a while, making me itch all the time. How cruel." Her wings fluttered about despite the thousands of years they had been cooped up out of sight. Wanda giggled. I know. It's been a long time," she told them. The scene around her began to fade as Brianna watched Wanda getting reacquainted with her attachments before disappearing from view. But despite it all, she was still left with an ache in her heart. For once again her emotions could not contain her fears and anxieties. Turning away from the fading image, she strolled through the tall grass to contemplate the future some more.